Hi, folks. Welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. A very mild day so far here in the Ozarks. Sun is out shining, but kind of cool. I mean, last night we were down in the 50s. In the 50s overnight. We haven't seen that in months, so can't complain. But it does look like later on this week, maybe by the weekend, we'll get back up into the 90s. It doesn't look nearly as bad as what we've had, maybe 90, 91 and stuff. But the lower humidity and the lower temperatures have been quite nice. Not complaining at all. My video last night, if you watched it, it came out late. I was talking just about how there's so much going on that's could potentially kind of come to head soon. And that this week that we're in right now, could be a little bit of a bumpy week. Friday is the deadline that President Trump has set for Russia to either come to the table and negotiate a ceasefire, or to have a bunch of sanctions and tariffs, secondary tariffs imposed upon other countries for buying their oil. And they're going to give the green light so that Ukraine can use U.S. weapons, long-range weapons, deep inside of Russia. That's a big change, and it's a bluff calling a bluff, back and forth, and I feel pretty strongly that while other nations might kind of back down to the United States, to Donald Trump over things, I don't think this is going to be one of the cases. I don't think Russia is. They've been in this far too long. They've got too much invested in it. And historically, Russia doesn't, So I would be surprised. I mean, there's still a chance that in the next few days that Russia could, turn around, that Putin could, give in. But I really don't see that happening. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen after that? When American missiles are raining down on Moscow, and I have no doubt that if given the permission that Ukraine will do that, they will absolutely do it. They want to. That's going to change a lot of things, I think. I think it's going to change Russians. Not just Russian leadership, but Russians. I mean, that's an amazing propaganda tool for the Russians. Looky here, we've got American missiles raining down on our capital city, killing our people. American missiles that are controlled, that are launched and all this by Americans. It's going to change things. It's kind of the similar situation with with China and Taiwan. China is moving closer and closer to Taiwan. There's been reports in the last few days of a lot of flights over Taiwan, a lot of ships and planes in the Taiwan Strait, military troop buildup there on the coast, facing Taiwan. There's been Russia and Chinese naval drills in that area. So there's a lot of activity over there. And word on the street is that nations like Japan and Australia are getting their militaries geared up and ready for a possible war with China over Taiwan. And of course, the United States is also. Now, I'm not saying that stuff is going to happen this week, but it does appear to be pretty close. I mean, it was just a few days ago that British news was reporting that China is on the verge of invading Taiwan or taking control of Taiwan or blockading Taiwan. So those things are happening. Here on the home front, it's still all the crazy just stuff, scandals and political fights and Epstein and all that kind of stuff. And that's going to continue to happen. And there's going to be continual just stuff. I mean, like I said last night, one of the big things it looks like could be, or something I think it's interesting, maybe not big, but definitely interesting, is aliens. You know, that's once again become the conversation, and apparently the vice president is very adamant about getting to the bottom of aliens. And you know, when we're looking at aliens and then this rapid advancement in technology, I think it's kind of strange that it is J.D. Vance, and J.D. Vance is very, very closely connected and tied in with all of this AI technocracy advancement. You know, him and Peter Thiel and Palantir and all of that, they're like this, okay? So here you've got the guy in government that's closely tied with all the technology, that's pushing it, and then he's also talking about aliens and exposing the truth on that. So I think that's kind of interesting. Palantir is just becoming bigger and bigger. There's been a couple of articles recently in the news talking about how they are now the dominant technological force in the United States government. You know, remember back the whole Doge thing where Elon Musk and his team were going in and cleaning out parts of the U.S. government? It was to replace all those employees with artificial intelligence systems, which are being run and managed by Palantir for the most part. And there's numerous contracts that the U.S. has with Palantir for different projects. You know, hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars. I mean, it was just a $10 billion contract signed recently with the Pentagon. And so this company is becoming huge, big time huge. It's also interesting, the rumors are is that the head of that company doesn't even own a cell phone. He doesn't use technology himself, which is something that I want to point out, that most of these big moguls over these big tech companies are that way. You know, Bill Gates was said to restrict, you know, internet and cell phone, smartphone usage in his home. All of these guys. So it's kind of interesting that they create it all, but yet they don't allow it into their own lives. Anyways, so I guess the point to all of this is that, as I've said in the last few videos, I know it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but I'm trying to not. Things are progressing pretty rapidly, and there's so much going on. I would suspect that in the coming days, or at least 2 or 3 weeks, that something pretty spectacular, something to really, you know, grab everyone's attention that's going to happen. It could be something, you know, from outer space. It could be something here on the planet. You know, we just had that 6th largest earthquake just a few days ago, and then a volcano that hadn't erupted for 400 years erupted in Russia, and then last night like a 3.5 on the Richter scale earthquake up in New York, right there at the border between New York and New Jersey. So you know, there's a lot of activity on the planet. There's a lot of people, that, myself included, that believe that we're in a pole shifting kind of scenario where things are really kind of starting to get to that bad part of it. That we're a few years away from something, you know, really shifting and changing. And then of course we're less than 5 years away from Agenda 2030. So there's all these various things that seem to be happening at the same time. And I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence. I can't prove it to you. I can't show you the documentation and say that all of these things, you know, the moral degradation of our society, the massive watering down of biblical truth, the wars, the economy, the lies, the corruption, the technology, the aliens, the earth rumbling and all that kind of stuff. I can't prove to you that it's all connected. But if you pick up and read your Bible, it doesn't take too long to start to say, wait, well, wait a minute. All this stuff that's going on right now, it really sounds a lot like what's in this book. Maybe there's a connection. And I think that's what a lot of people believe. You know, I think the general consensus And I've been a Bible believing Christian my whole life, grew up in church, and I think the general consensus is that when the end times come, when it's happening, that it will be obvious that people that aren't believers may not know that it's the end times and the tribulation and all the things leading up to that, that days of Noah, the birthing pains type, that they may not know that's what it is, but they know something's wrong, and then all the believers will see it. And I don't think that that's quite the case. I think that it's going to be I believe that it really will only be those, that have the eyes to see and the ears to hear, and those that are the, that true remnant. And I think that's a much, much, much smaller number than what we believe. A lot of people believe, oh, well, it's, the Bible says the very elect, and that just means everyone that believes in Jesus. Bible also says, and Yeshua himself says that, there are those that call my name and I knew them not. I think it's a much, much smaller number than what we think, than what most churchgoers think. And so my point is that I think that the end times, for the vast majority of the population, both Bible believers and non, they're not going to realize that's what we're in. It's just going to be, well, it's just a rough time period that we're in. Like, we could be right smack in the middle of it right now, or at least involved in it. And many people are like, well, it's bad, but we're not quite there yet. I'm not saying that's the case, but I do think that it's going to be spun as something else. That's going to be part of the deception, and that only those that are really truly redeemed and really truly sold out to Yeshua, and that really are hardened, hardcore, blood-bought saints, those the real ones. And I'm not being judgmental. I'm just telling you, the ones that are serious, I think, are the only ones that's going to be able to really notice it. I think everyone else is just going to we're just going through a rough time right now. It's just, you remember way back when COVID, how bad that was. It's kind of like that. It's just a rough spell that we're going through. I could be completely wrong, but I think personally that that's how it's going to be. And it's not going to be obvious. It's not going to be like in the movie, like everyone just, oh my goodness, we just know. Oh, this is that time. I don't really think that's how it's going to be. We'll see. So the point is that you need to be seriously preparing yourselves. And when I say those words, I'm not really intending to mean storing your beans and your rice in buckets. I mean, yes, you should do that, but I'm talking about in here. This is where you need to be preparing yourself, your soul. You need to be daily, like your goal every day should be to finish that day being closer to the Word, closer to Yeshua. That you're more in tune, you're more in harmony with the Spirit. That should be what we're doing. Because these days are becoming more evil. I mean, it was just, I saw something and I didn't, it was one of those things, I didn't want to see it, but I wanted to see it to be able to understand it. I guess there's a new Broadway play. It's the Jesus Christ Superstar, which is not new, but it's a new rendition of it. Some woman that I have no clue who she is. I guess she's been in movies or something. I don't know. I don't follow that stuff and I don't care. But she's a black lesbian, which her skin color doesn't really matter, but she's a black lesbian woman. She looks demonic. She absolutely looks demonic, covered in tattoos and piercings and long, nasty fingernails. I mean, she looks evil, and she's playing Jesus. And then another gay guy, he's a singer, he's Judas. I don't know if they're supposed to be in some kind of weird relationship, because it's an absolute blasphemous mockery is what I'm saying. It's disgusting. That play has been since what, the 70s when it came out, I think. But it's like it's taken it to a whole new level now. This is the world that we live in. Yeah. Yeshua's coming back, and I don't think it's too far away. Get your houses in order. Prepare yourselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next video.